Hey guys, it's Abby from Homeschool with Moxie, and today I'm bringing you our final sixth grade homeschool curriculum roundup. So, in the fall, in 2024, here in the fall, my final child will be doing sixth grade homeschool. This is the fifth time we've done it, and I'm going to say almost everything has changed. There's one subject that has remained constant, and we will get to that in a minute, but isn't it funny? Like, five kids. This has been 10 years since my oldest did sixth grade. So, I mean, there's new curriculum on the market. I've learned as a homeschool mom, I've learned what works for us and what doesn't. And so sometimes things just change. It's funny. I thought I would kind of pick something at the beginning and we would stick to it all the way through for all the kids. And that's just not how things have turned out. So I've learned to be flexible. What works for one child doesn't work for the next, and different seasons of homeschooling. You just feel like certain curriculum is going to fit your energy level, what you feel like you can invest into it, the kind of independence you need your child to have, whether you're teaching multiple kids together. There's a lot of things that go into this. So when we homeschooled our older four, they were all kind of this cohort. They learned together. We did a lot together. Now my fifth is kind of been doing school on her own. She doesn't have a bunch of siblings near her age. So it's like, I know it's not like homeschooling an only child, but to me it feels like homeschooling an only child because I've been used to this big group of four boys that did everything together. And now it's like a different homeschooling experience with our last one. So this is just where I'm coming from and kind of how I've been thinking about sixth grade. But I will give you a little rundown of how I've landed on some of these options before I show you what they are. So when I'm homeschooling, I've already mentioned, I think of my child, think of my season of life and like my energy level, but I'm thinking of their challenges, how they're gifted, what kind of curriculum style will work well for them. You know how some kids love workbooks? Well, I think my oldest was like that. Like he was a workbook kid. I was a worksheet girl, right? But some kids, it's just not going to work for them. They're going to totally turn off when you hand them that pile. So you have to kind of think about your own unique child and how can you customize it to where they're at. I mean, we have to think about our budget, right? Many of us are homeschooling on a tight budget. Some of us don't spend $1,000 per kid to get this out of the box. I'm going to watch videos and do all the workbooks and all this. Like I have never paid that kind of money for homeschooling. I think the most we ever paid for 5 kids in 1 year was literally $500 total. And that was like including some kids who were in high school. So, I mean, we have always done this very cheaply, inexpensively, but I feel like we've still chosen really good curriculum. It's just that if we spend a bunch of money on it, I'm probably able to reuse it for 5 kids, which makes it in the long run not cost as much money. But so I'm thinking, okay, in sixth grade, this is my last child. I'm not going to go out and buy a really expensive curriculum because I can't reuse it either. And so I'm kind of like, what do I already have on hand? Although that's not the only way I've made this decision, which I will tell you about in a minute, because there is some stuff I use for the brothers and I'm kind of tired of it, or I'm ready to move on, or we need a different approach. And so I really did go out looking for a few different things for this final child. And then I have to have curriculum that's homeschool friendly. I cannot have curriculum that requires me to look at a teacher's manual every day, figure out all the nitty gritty, and like spend tons of time planning. I have to have an open and go option where we just do the next lesson. I'm not spending all summer lesson planning. So those are some of my requirements when I'm choosing curriculum. Now let me show you specifically what we're doing for sixth grade. So I will start with our tried and true. And I know this is kind of funny because this is a very textbook approach. This is BJU Press, Math 6. You can tell my book has been around for a few years, but we still love BJU Press Math all the way, like K through as much as you can handle. Like I've done it into the high school years where I'm like helping as we need it. But like once I had too many kids on the high school level, I couldn't like switch between geometry, algebra 2. I couldn't do that much math every day. So we outsourced and ended up switching. But it is doable if you have an only child. Like we'll see what my last child, if we go through all the way through high school with just using a textbook and I help them through it. But I still find, I think even if you don't feel like super great with math, definitely the K through 5, K through 6 on BGU Press Math, very user friendly, even though it's made for a traditional classroom, which I normally shy away from. But for this, math is kind of a textbooky subject, right? And so the thing I love about this is it's very user-friendly and the instruction is right on the page. So if we are opening to this lesson, the instruction is right there. I don't need to open a teacher's book, because if we can't understand it from there, the textbook isn't very good, but we can figure it out from the instruction. And then there's plenty of problems for her to work on. Now, this particular book, once you hit 6th grade, they expect you to use your own paper and write everything out. Up to 5th grade, it's a work text where it's a consumable workbook where you're writing right in the text, in the work text. But starting now in 6th grade, she's going to need her own paper. Now, if you have been around a little while, you know that I typically don't buy the teacher's manual from BJU Press, because up till 5th grade, you can easily tell if their answers are right. Now, okay, if you feel really scared about math, go ahead and buy the teacher's book. But I do buy the teacher's book starting in 6th grade, and it's massive. And I don't love that it's massive. I wish it was just like a little answer key. Look at this thing. Because this is made for a traditional classroom teacher. It tells them how to teach the lesson. Look at that. I don't use any of this. Now, you might be like, hey, I really want to read up on this and how to explain it to my child. I don't put that kind of time into it. We don't need to. But if you want it, it's there. I only buy it because of this. Here are the student pages reproduced with the answers in pink or red or whatever. That's the only reason I buy this big clunky teacher manual, because I don't think you should be buying curriculum that requires you to use this. So the only thing we use it for is the answer key. I don't look at this at all. So that is one thing I've told BJU Press too. I've heard it been told to them, like, hey, just give the homeschoolers an answer key. We don't need this big clunky teacher's manual. But they're kind of making generally for a traditional classroom, a Christian school market. It just so happens homeschoolers like to use their products too. So in this case, I buy the teacher's manual. That's a long drawn out explanation, but that's why I'm doing this. But it's an excellent curriculum. Back to the curriculum itself, is excellent. It's a super strong foundation in math. Your child will be well prepared for high school math, for middle school. It's not fluffy. It's not simple. Now, once again, you can opt to do, 45 equations per lesson, or you can be like, hey, we're doing odds and evens. We're just going to do 20. It's flexible that way too, right? You know your child. Also, I don't buy tests at this age. There's no need. We know if we know it, we move on if we do. If we don't, we're going to spend more time on it. There are reviews. So the next big category of curriculum resources is going to be language arts. So we just talked about math. Now, language arts can feel confusing to people because there are so many subcategories in that big umbrella called language arts, right? We have spelling and vocabulary, we have reading or literature, we have grammar, we have writing. We might include public speaking in the language arts. So there's a lot of different categories, and you don't necessarily have to do each one each year. For example, you might do a really intense grammar instruction one of the years, and then the next year you're just doing a slight review 5 minutes a day while you're focusing more on writing or focusing more on literature. And so you can decide as the homeschool parent what you're going to focus on this year. Are you going to do every type of language arts subcategory, just a little chunk of it every day? Are you focusing on one thing? So let me tell you about what we are doing for 6th grade. So I'll start with our favorite spelling curriculum in the world. We highly recommend, and that is all about spelling. Now you can tell my daughter's pretty good at spelling. She's in 6th grade, but she's on level 7. That's the beauty of this. It's not grade specific, it's level. So if your child needs to go slower and your child's in 6th grade, but they're doing level 4 spelling, that's okay. You do the level they're at. And so we love this. Look at how tiny this book is. It's amazing. It's not overwhelming. Tiny, comes with word cards, comes with a student packet with more resources for you, but it's not overwhelming at all. We do this 5-10 minutes a day tops, and we just keep consistency going, and we master spelling. If you want to check them out, and also they have different samples you can download and some other resources to see what their philosophy is like and if it's a good fit, you can try them at my link at 4onemore.com/spelling. They also have a monthly giveaway, which right now I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's $100 gift certificate, sometimes it's a full sometimes it's a full one of their programs, but you can find their giveaway at 4onemore.com/giveaway. That will take you right to it. Let me fix my microphone here. There we go. That's what happens when I use my hands too much. So we love spelling. All About Spelling is our favorite. Now, we have used Fix It Grammar for a few years. She has a really good grasp of grammar. So this year, we're not going to necessarily do that. We're doing daily grams, which is a very tiny daily review of that. Super easy to use, 1 page a day. Gives you just a tiny bit of rehearsal and practice in all the different grammar-related things. So we're using daily grams. That's by Easy Grammar Systems. So that's what that is. Literature/reading, we will just encourage reading to love reading. So she's found a few little series recently. Well, she's read Harry Potter like a million times. So that was last year. That was really good for her to get into reading a lot and getting into a storyline. This year she found some other series she's really into, so I'm just going to encourage that. And that's what I've found. Like, you can really squash the love of reading if you're like, okay, write a book report and you've got to read this. And like, I struggle with that because I know we need to read the classics, but sometimes some of the books on those recommended lists are pretty dry and we don't like them. And as an adult, if I start reading a book and it's awful, am I going to make myself finish the book? I'm not. I'm going to send it back to the library. So I've kind of taken that philosophy with my kids through the years, and I hope it's been beneficial to them. I hope they still enjoy reading. So that's kind of what we're doing for that. And we'll use narration orally to go over what she's read. Now for writing, I'm going back to something that we used, I'm going to say 10 years ago with our oldest. It is, okay, I'm going to tell you, it looks intimidating, but the value of it is it's written to the student. And so it's helping her gain that independence. She doesn't need me to sit there and teach her. It walks them step by step through every day and all the assignments. And that is writing with skill. So let me show you this massive student book. Look at this. That's level 1. I know just the size just looks overwhelming. It's because there's a lot of source material in here. Everything they need is in here. So that's why it looks a little crazy. But this is level 1. This is by Susan Wise Bauer. You may know her from Story of the World fame. This is from Peace Hill Press. You could say it's like a classical approach to learning writing. And it's super step by step, like I said. And it will take them through outlining, literary analysis. I mean, it walks them. It doesn't say, okay, write a 5-page paper, week 1. It's very step by step. It assumes you kind of use narration and that your child can summarize things orally first. And that's a great foundation. Let me read you what the publisher says. This level is geared toward 5th through 7th grade. We did use it for our 5th grader years ago, our oldest. It was he wasn't prepared enough. Now I'm thinking my rising 6th grader this year, I think has been a little better prepared because I know to prepare her for something like this. I think she might do a little better, but this is for 5th through 7th. So there's like a window there where you could pick this up. But the publisher says, learn how to write with clarity and confidence. The workbook is written directly to the student to foster independence. It gives essential training in organization, composition, structure, and research methods. All source material is included, teaches 1 and 2 level outlining. Instructor text also required, which yes, it is. It will help you. It will give you some answer keys and rubrics as you help your child. It's also massive. I'm sorry to say it's massive, but it's written with the homeschooler in mind. So it's not written for a traditional classroom with like a lesson plan, but it actually tells you how to help your student with each of the steps if they need that. And it, gives you a conversation, questions to ask, how to help them, gives you rubrics to help them and grade the work. So, if you don't feel very confident, the instructor text will help you. I know it is overwhelming. Don't let the size scare you. The content is very good, and your children will learn how to write very well. So we're going to try it, and I will do a mid-year recap and tell you how it's working. Some kids, things can be awesome, and they just won't work for your kids. So you gotta try it. But I think this is going to work for us this year. So you can tell our spelling, our grammar, and is going to be like just tiny bits of amount each day. our focus this year is on writing, because up till now we haven't focused on writing. I just don't think the younger years, you need to be like telling your second grader to write these big papers. They don't need to write massive book reports. They're just getting all the foundational skills. Now she's like middle school. I think this is the time to start introducing these writing skills. So that's how we've approached it and why we're doing this focus. So now we are focusing on writing this year, and I'll let you know how it goes. But we do love it. I've used this before. I know it's an excellent curriculum. That's writing with skill. Here's our final 2 core curriculum, you could say, and then I'll tell you about our incidentals. So for science, we are using Generations Homeschool. We used this last year. We used I think it was animals. This year we're doing God Made the World. It's basically like an earth science. And this is for the 5th through 7th grade span. So once again, like you could include multiple kids using this one curriculum. The textbook is kind of like on the tiny side, which is nice. Very nice inside, colorful, includes, it's very interesting. It's not necessarily like a dry textbook like you would expect from science. Very much Christian worldview based, infuses the Christian worldview like everywhere. It doesn't just tack a little verse on the end. So even you can tell from the title, it's very much a Christian worldview science curriculum. Now, we last year did use the student workbook with it. We didn't love it. We may try it because I have it, and we may quickly ditch it and do notebooking. So the workbook tends to be workbooky, and it's just not our favorite thing over here. I do have it, so we'll see. If she does well, we might do it. But like you can see, the workbook's a little massive and almost overkill. And so we'll see. We might get way more out of notebooking. So once again, I'll do a mid-year recap and let you know what we end up using with this. If we stick with the workbook, or maybe we just use notebooking, which also makes science, history, and all those things really easy to use. You find a great book and you just do your own recording of what's important with the notebooking method. And it's actually really much more inexpensive if you don't need to be buying workbooks for all your kids. It makes it a little cheaper to homeschool also. Now, for our social studies class, I'm really excited to be trying out Guest Hollow, their junior geography and cultures curriculum. So I've seen Guest Hollow recommended all over the place when people say, hey, we're really burnt out with this curriculum. We're really trying to find something like what's a good, really user-friendly, enjoyable curriculum. I mean, they have sciences, they have history, social studies, they have all sorts of courses at different levels. But I've seen their name thrown around on social media, and I thought I need to try them out because in all my years of homeschooling, we just have never. We've had other things we've been using. Well, this year we decided we were like, okay, let's do geography because we're getting in those middle school years. We're going to be starting to do, detailed high school American history and all this stuff. Let's get a good grasp on geography this year. But this child needs it to be more enjoyable, more loving learning rather than sucking the life out of her with worksheets and all that kind of thing. Like I just said, we may not be using the worksheets for science. I think we might go with notebooking. And that's what I have heard about Guest Hollow, which is why I was excited to try them out. So they explain themselves as a buffet of learning. So what do you get from Guest Hollow? And I don't have like a curriculum to show you per se. I'll stick maybe like a screenshot of like a picture of their product here, but it's a digital download. So what do they give you? They basically give you the plan for geography this year. This is for 1st through 6th grade. So we're right at the end of it, but I think it'll be fine. You could use it for all your kids. We're just using it for one. They give you the plan. They say, here's this amazing buffet, and now you choose what you want to do. And we're learning about a certain continent or country every week or two, however they structure that out. They give you the plan. They planned it out. So you're going to learn about the whole world. You're going to learn all those normal geography things you learn about where things are, but also their culture and interesting facts and all those things. And they give you book suggestions, videos, hands-on activities, like all different things. They do suggest, even if you do love workbooks, they suggest a few geography workbooks. They give you what pages to do each day. Now, the thing about a curriculum like this is you could be easily overwhelmed thinking you have to do everything. But the beauty of it is you pick and choose what works best for your kid. And So for Guest Hollow, Junior Geography and Cultures, what I've done is I printed out their book list and I started to see like what books does it look like we're going to use over and over. I went ahead and found them on eBay and purchased those. And then I'm looking through other ones and seeing if they're at my library, because, you know, if you don't want to purchase all these, you can totally borrow them. And so I've kind of been looking that over. And then I went ahead and got the weekly lesson plans, a few of those, like not lesson plans, but like overviews of like, here's what you could use for this week on each of these days. And like I said, you're just going to pick and choose what works for you. There's a mix of everything from living books, videos, online geography games, activities, cooking, like super, super fun, hands-on. I think it'll be an enjoyable way for my 6th child to do geography. And like I said, we've never done this approach before or used this curriculum, but I think it's going to be a good fit. I will let you know halfway through the year in our mid-year roundup, but I'm excited about it. So I'll show you just a few of the books we purchased. The rest we're going to borrow, or I'll purchase as needed as we get to it. I didn't want to over purchase and buy out like a ton of books and then find out, hey, we're just going back to the same ones over and over. So the thing she's most excited about is this cooking class Global Feast, because she enjoys cooking, and this will be a fun way to just add to our geography studies around the world. This one looks really interesting too. It's actually a beautiful hardcover book, Prisoners of Geography, Our World Explained in 12 Simple Maps. And I think this is going to be fascinating, really, really interesting. So, and then of course you got to have like an awesome atlas, right? The nighttime pictures of where everyone lives. So pretty cool. So we're excited about that, and we will definitely tell you how it goes. So our final roundup of, like, you could call them electives after our core classes of math, language arts, science, and history or geography. Basically for music, we do piano lessons. I get to be her teacher, so she gets mom for that too, but she's taking piano lessons. For art, we love Masterpiece Society. Their watercolor whimsies lessons are our favorite, and you can find them at 4onemore.com/masterpiece. And then for Bible, she's excited to be using our inductive Bible studies for Jonah and Nahum this year. So she has previously done the Little Fishes versions of this when she was younger. Those are for K through 4. Those are for your little kids who are still getting good at reading. Now, once your kids are in like 5th grade and up, they can read through the entire books of Jonah and Nahum, and they can study it verse by verse inductively. That's where you study through an entire book. You're looking at keywords and repetition and key themes and compare and contrast and cross references and all these things, coming up with a complete summary. What is the main idea of this chapter, this book? What's going on here? You may not realize that the book of Nahum is the history of Nineveh after Jonah preaches to them. That's why those two books are together. Most of our kids don't know, like, what happens after Jonah preaches in Nineveh. The book of Jonah ends abruptly. Well, that's where the book of Nahum comes in. It's pretty cool to read that and understand it in context of just have studied Jonah. So these books are perfect for 5th through 12th. Obviously, different age level, you will have different expectations. Like, we have optional projects in here that your 12th grader may need to do to get a grade on the transcript, where your 5th grader doesn't need to do those projects. So it's totally user-friendly. You can adjust the speed of how quickly you go through this. I did originally make these thinking they were a 9-week study. Now, that's pretty quick. That's pretty intense. That might be even too intense for some of your high schoolers. You could definitely stretch it out to a semester. I've heard some families stretch it out to a year, even for their high schoolers. My rising 6th grader will definitely spend the whole year on this, and we'll just take our time. And we walk through observation, what does the text say? Interpretation, what does the text mean? And application, how should this change me? And so you can get these beautifully printed workbooks on Amazon, which we will link to. You can find them on my site, or it's hard to show you. You can download the digital copy and print it as many times as you want for all your kids in your house. So that's like the more inexpensive version, is just purchase it digitally and print it. It's so hard to show you properly. But that is the study of Jonah and Nahum. So like, here's a project rubric. So if you're older kids, if you want them to actually do a writing assignment using what they've learned, we do give you rubrics to put a grade on the transcript. Now, if you want video lessons to go along with these, we have those as well. Those are optional, but some kids will appreciate having me show them on a screen how I'm marking up the text as we talk through what the flow of the passage is. So you can find those as well on our site. Now, if you want to try out samples of this or any of our other Bible studies, you can find them at 41more.com/samples. And I'll try to put links to all these things below the video. But that's our general roundup for 6th grade. So I'm pretty excited. It's my last time through 6th grade, and I think we have a great mix of different curriculum. You can tell we're eclectic. We are not sticking with one publisher or one thing. We kind of pick and choose what works well for us. Like I said, it changes year to year, kid to kid, so I don't think you need to be afraid. If you use something and now want to use something different for the next child in line, go with it. It might be a good fit. You don't have to stick with something just because you paid a ton of money for it either. And so I hope this has inspired you, giving you some new ideas to check out maybe for your rising 6th grader as well. Thanks for watching, and in the meantime, happy homeschooling.